Boom. All right. What is going on, my friends? Welcome. Thought I would join you. Quick riff today on dance technique, questions for you to ponder, things for you to think about with dance technique. It's Vaughn here, the founder of Ballroom Mastery. It's amazing to have you here. I want you to leave a question for me if you have one in the window. This one is going out to you competitors out there, those who are in the game of performance, or speaking or acting, stepping on stage in front of people, kicking ass and taking names. This is for you. This is something you're going to want to stick in today and listen to. I didn't really prepare though. I mean, this is something I think we can all relate to. If I spent my time preparing, I don't think I would have ever recorded one video, right? Because that's just part of my that's just part of the way I sort of work is I like to see what I'm going to say. It reminds me of Zig Ziglar, a famous speaker who has passed away a long time ago, but he said if you set yourself on fire, people will come from miles just to see you burn. And so I like that, right? Because that is really relevant to a lot of the work that we're going to do today together, mindset wise. So, this podcast, this channel, a lot of it is dedicated to the mindset of performance, right? The artistry of mastery begins in the mind, and what you believe you can achieve. That's sort of how it works. Now, I want you to think about this in a logical way, and then I want you to also get past that at some point because when we look at performance, something I was discussing with a competitor today was this a bit, she's got a lot of experience dancing, but then there's always this block, right? You can probably relate to this when she'll get on the dance floor, she'll be in front of people and then thinking, right? Like just all the time. And her face shows it. So there's something I want you to be aware of when you're looking at getting onto the dance floor. And that is at some point, the technique has to come through and just, you have to let it go, right? The performance has to come out. And your body is like the instrument for the performance. So consider it like an orchestra. You have little woodwinds, you've got the brass instruments, you got some dude with the little triangle up in the back. Why is he there? We don't know, but he's waiting for his moment. And all of the orchestra has to be conducted by a maestro to play in perfect harmony, right? To work together in a coordinated effort to make a song come to life. And if someone's out of tune or misses a note or drops their instrument, it's going to be known, right? So that's how dancing works. You've got these sort of layers in your own movement, in your own skill set that have to work in like a perfect coordination. Think of it like this. I make reference to this a lot because this is a good way of thinking of things. But if you looked at the alphabet, A to Z, you want to hit each letter in sequence to make the alphabet real, right? A lot of people skip letters and they try to go from A straight to Z, missing everything in between the other 24 letters. If you just go A to D, A, B, C, D, but you miss C, it's not going to work. And that's how dance technique functions, right? It isn't the end all be all. I have a little excerpt I'm going to read from a book about dance technique that I think is important, especially when it relates to champions and competition and what that actually means in when you're looking at executing technique, in the best way you can, and the fact that it doesn't necessarily correlate to becoming a champion at all, right? So that's an important aspect because at some point you got to let it go. So this whole business of like thinking, and constantly being in your head about your dancing is something that we're going to have to like work through together. But listen, before we go any further, leave me a question below. It's actually, oh, hey, Go, how are you? Nice to have you here. And it's been a while since I've been online, so I just wanted to come in here. All right. And cool. So there's two things, right, we're going to look at. First is dance technique and then performance value. So let's look at it from what you can control, right? You can control your body, your ability to move, your ability to train, the lessons you have to an extent, right? All of those things are like within the locus of your control, okay? So that's sort of where dance technique falls under that. And then there is the performance that you give, the performance value, which is your interplay between yourself and the audience. It's in any capacity, right? This could be like a presentation at work. That's an audience, right? That's how you have to start seeing this. And so the performance value you give, technique allows you the ability to step up and play the game, right? And be able to get on the board and score some runs. So within our orchestra, we need to have our routine, right? We need to have our phrased choreography. We need to have our skills in order. So we need good footwork. We need to have good body rhythm. We need to have upper body rhythm. We need to have hip action. This is if you're Latin dancing, for example. You need to have arm styling. Of course, expression comes through all of that. And in order as well, right? So you can't really, I don't know, can you really have like good dancing without good footwork? You can, but like it's going to be short lived, as you can see in terms of your success. So the point we're making here is that like the technique allows you the freedom to move and connect with the audience and then display what you're doing, right? Similar to if you're a speaker, a public speaker, you would have a speech that is targeted to an audience who is receptive, but then you have to deliver it with tonality, pace, timbre, right? Like you have to have an inflection in your voice at certain points. You have to know when to pause. And all of that is there to convey a message and then a subtext to the audience. And then they have to be reciprocal. So there's a performance value with a speech, right? And a lot of people don't give thought to that. So the capacity to have the technical foundation and then to have performance value is quite important. But don't get caught up solely on technique, although it is like the massive foundation that underlies things. There's also performance value on top. So often you can sort of, this is the hard thing, right? You want to move away from when you're in the moment of performing, you actually need to have this ability to let go, right? This ability to be in the moment and to not give a flying beep what's going on, and trust your body, trust that the training you've done is automatically conditioned in there and that you'll be okay, like you'll be all right to go. The more you overthink things as you're performing or dancing, the audience can't connect to that, right? Like, so right now I'm riffing with you. I don't have a written out speech word for word. I've never really done anything like that before on any of my content. And some people like it, some people don't. But that's okay, because it's just like dancing. It's so subjective who likes you and who doesn't, that you can't please everyone, right? And this is like one of the core messages I want you to hear. Who are you dancing for? So yes, it's for yourself. Is it for every judge to like you? Is it for everyone to like you? No, that'd be crazy, right? That's just like people pleasing with dancing. That just can't work. So who are you dancing for? Well, when you're looking at performance, you're really dancing for the audience. That's my opinion, right? You're there to entertain. That's what you're doing it for. It's not really there unless you got like some weird ego thing going on, or you're just like absolutely in love with yourself. The idea of just like dancing for nothing but personal validation and what people tell you is a very shallow way of approaching performance, right? Because the idea is like you're there to entertain. The idea is you're there to inspire or uplift, or like find some way that the audience can like really gel with what you're doing. And the ability to execute is critical. Yeah, your technique allows you to do that, but they're not there to watch your technical performance. You understand? And that's where a lot of people can get lost. Now, one of the things I'd like to talk about here, and by the way, if you've got any questions for me whilst I'm live, whack them below the second part of this. I'm happy to answer some questions. But this is from Barry Gasson. So he's got a book called Technically Speaking, which I think is really cool. There's some things I like, some things I disagree with. A lot of things we're really in common in the way we teach. But let me read this to you, and you can make your own assessment, right? So, dear reader, a great teacher of dance once said, technique is the practical method of performing a particular task with the maximum efficiency, all right, relating to the practical mechanics peculiar to a particular field of activity. Now, that probably sounds like quite a mouthful, and whilst they may be very accurate, one needs to understand how to go about achieving maximum efficiency, all right? And that's what a professional is. A professional is someone who has worked so diligently at the technical aspects of dancing, mastering basic movements, basic foot positions, footwork, technique in terms of alignment, turn, etc., timings, and the alternate timings, that they do it with ease. You think of a tennis player and you think of how easy they hit a ball at like 200 kilometers an hour. That is maximum efficiency with also the least amount of input, right? And that's important. Now, quite simply, the technique of dancing is the result of detailed analysis of action and movements used by the best dancers. Many, many thousands of dollars have been spent on the quest to achieve this goal. Woo! That's so true. I've spent so much money on dancing. Oh my God. But I never thought of it that way. Actually, side note, I always know someone's going to quit dancing when they start talking about how much money they've spent on dancing. Because I'm like, bro, like I've spent six figures on this art of mine. I love it. But I never calculated as an investment, number one. And number two, it's a passion, right? So you might be budgeting, but like you're not counting the money, right? Do that investing in stocks, crypto, startups, whatever, but it doesn't quite work in an artistic field because you ain't getting that return. You're doing it because you love it, right? So there's a very different mindset from my perspective in that. Okay, now coming back to the quest, right, to achieve here, it does not necessarily mean that current champions are the best model for analysis. Oh my God, did you hear that? This does not mean that the current champions are the best model for analysis or the best examples one should strive to emulate. Okay? That, you got to hear that again. Just because they're a champion doesn't mean you should copy them. Haha. All right. Okay, that's going to ruffle some goddamn feathers, but it's true. Let's continue and think about why. Champions are decided by comparison in competition with other dancers. In the system of judging currently used, an adjudicator can form an assessment of a couple's worth based on any number of aspects, technique not necessarily being one of them. Such aspect, did you see that? Technique not being one of them. Right. You're not doing a medal test, yeah? So such aspects of performance as crowd appeal, complexity of choreography, youthful agility. Yes, youthful agility, my friends. Gymnastic ability may be of greater or lesser importance to a particular judge. It's perfectly possible that the standard of technique of the champion couple may not be as high as the other couples in the same final. That is so true, right? I have definitely seen people like, oh my God, their fundamentals are horrible, but they've got fantastic crowd appeal. And who's going to win? Often, because of the performance value, it's that couple, isn't it? But like they're doing like the most basic mistakes, but that's not what they're being judged on, are they? And so then you just need a majority to win, don't they? So now you can like it or not, but we're in a subjective thing. And when you're in a subjective sport, you have to be able to deal with this interpretation, right? Because it's not who can dance the waltz the fastest, and if you do it the fastest, you win, like a race in the Olympics, yeah? So the fact that adjudicators are not required to give greater or lesser importance to any particular aspect of technique may be a weakness in the present system or may not be. I know there are there's like a skating system, like a figure skating system that's used in in different organizations, might have different rules where they try to give, look at figure skating, they'll have like technical categories and then you score out of 10 within those categories. I know that there are different ways to score, but I mean, we're not talking about that particular thing at the moment. You still can't get away from the fact that people are interpreting what you're doing, and therefore they'll have their own viewpoint. Now, here's the key. However, when the champion couple are guilty of fundamental errors that would not be condoned in a low-grade medal test, then considerable concern must be felt by teachers, coaches, and competitors alike. Yeah. So the present system of judging can and does often throw up a couple who are outstanding in performance, other aspects of performance other than technique, and they may very well achieve a measure of success. Usually, it's more striking aspects of the dance, such as crowd appeal, and very often young, impressionable dancers want to copy and emulate the outrageous movements of a couple concerned, particularly if it draws a wild applause from the supporters, but other judges impressed. Here's the last paragraph. The success of a couple will usually be short-lived, as it's inevitable that they will come up against couples of similar talents but with greater technical proficiency sooner rather than later. And so that last sentence is really where I want to stop and what is the most important to take away. So you've got this dual, okay. So you can't control, if we think about earlier, you can't control the judges. You can't even control the audience, right? You can control yourself. You can't control who wins. And often there'll be couples that might win that lack the technical proficiency that you have, but they have way better performance value. They're better interacting with the audience. Their agility, their speed, their power, like bang, 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 everything's fast and it's a rumba, right? Which personally I don't like. But again, that is the competitive nature. Things go in fads and things come in and out. The point is that it won't last the length of time. Now, from a personal experience, I noticed this going from competing in our local state to competing Australia wide to going to Australasia, then competing on the world scale in Blackpool, and then going to represent Australia in multiple World 10 Dance Championships. Man, did I notice that scale start to shift. So often the technical proficiency would be lower, but the performance value would be higher. Okay, this is not across the board. This is across the board, not specific to a dancer, right? This is just generally speaking. In a regional competition, you're going to have lower technical ability, but you'll have dancers that stand up because they're amazing with the crowd, right? But as you go up the pyramid and you go into tighter and tighter, sort of where I suppose people have been weeded out, right? So as you go up to say an Australian championship level at an open level, the a lot of people have been weeded out to get, so who remains are a very strong contention of dancers. But that doesn't mean within that pool their technical ability is very good, okay? But they may have agility. They may be really good at emulating, and they may be very, very good at crowd performance, which wins the day. And I've seen this a lot, and it drives me fucking nuts because it's like, like that, and I've experienced it myself. So I'm not saying that I'm like perfect at all. I had the technical proficiency down, and then working on the crowd performances where like I wanted to spend my time, right? And still to this day love that side of things because it's very easy to rely on technique to give you this false sense of confidence that if you just nail your technique, you're going to win. Okay, and that's just not true because you're not doing a medal test, right? So we'll come back to that in a second. But as you go up the echelon, you start to get to bigger competitions and scales. You'll find that there will be this competitive value of a lot of dancers having great technique and also great performance value, and that's when you get real strong competition. Okay, but that's not always going to be the case. So what's the point here? Depending on what your goals are, what you're looking to do, one thing that remains true above all, in my opinion, is to always have good performance value. Right? That's it. Like in my estimation, it's a little better to back off if you are so caught up in your mind about how you look and you're trying to do things right, quote unquote, because you're a perfectionist. That is not what people are watching you for. Okay. Now, if you're doing a medal exam, nobody cares about your performance value because it's the opposite, right? And so many people do medal exams who watch my content, who are in my programs. And I say to them, if you go on that floor like a competition, the adjudicator or the examiner is going to have a big problem with you because it isn't a competition and you actually dance differently. And I think Mirko Gazzoli did a Blackpool lecture discussing that. If I did an exam, here's how I dance. If I did a competition, here's how I dance. They are actually two different ways. So keep that in mind. Now, coming back to the idea of technical proficiency, you need that to have the confidence, right? So competency and confidence are linked. And so you want to make sure that you have that as a base. And if you need help with that, by the way, then join my program, right? Ballroom Mastery Access every day, every week. I'll send you videos on how to become technically proficient. And also I will help you to elevate like your mindset so you can start to get beyond just that and to start to understand how to execute and use your body as the instrument, right? To dance in harmony, get everything in the right order. So as it's in the right order, you're actually able to be free, express yourself, and have a fucking ball on the dance floor because that's what it's all about. Nobody wants to see a sad sack dancing on the floor like you were dragged into this competition by your partner and you don't want to be there. Nobody wants to see that. Am I wrong? Okay, so with that in mind, I really appreciate your being here. If anyone's got a question, put it in the window below. What do you think about all of this? Okay, do you think it's true? What's your experience with competition if you do competition? What's freaked you out about competition, right? On a last note that I was saying to this competitor, it's not necessarily about most people are not born to perform. I got to remember that. That's good. That's a good one. Most people are not born to perform. You got to train it. So even the X factor that's in certain talents in artistic fields, that I don't think you can teach personally, but I think that the idea of talent is overrated. I have another YouTube channel where I got a video that I did massive amounts of research on talent, and it's so overrated, right? Like it'll get you in the door, and it might get you like up to a very low level in competition, but it's not making you a world champion by any stretch of the imagination, right? So you've got to have this what's it called? This this internal frame within you that starts to see the audience as a group of people that you can entertain, and you have to have the willingness to put yourself out there, to set yourself on fire right in front of them to burn, so for their own entertainment, as sick as that sounds. Because it's like sort of throwing yourself out on a limb is what people love to watch. You know, some of you watching me going, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? Who's he going to swear at? Like, what people are going to say in the comments, right? Like, people turn up to watch other people who put themselves out there. And that's going to be you, my friend. But talent will only get you so far. And you don't need to be born to perform. It is a learned skill and it's trained. Does that mean that you can become the very best performer in your industry? No, but I found out that often you don't even need to get close to that to have a remarkable existence and a fantastic life experience. And isn't that what it's all about? For me personally, I'm about quality of life, to enjoy things with people who want to enjoy things with me. I don't want to spend any time with people who don't want me around them. I'm beyond. My earlier life, I used to try to win people over. I used to try to be a people pleaser. I've learned the hard way. Do not do this, okay? You will attract the right people into your life if you have a certain attitude. And that's the same with performing. People will be drawn to you when you start to give more of yourself and you start to let go a little bit. Now, you're going to have detractors and you're going to have haters. You're going to have people that will be like, oh, you're a show pony. You just think you're better than other people. Fuck them. Don't worry about them, right? We're not trying to improve and please and get those people to be won over. Yeah. It's sort of like what Jerry Seinfeld would say, success is the best revenge. So as you build your skills and you move yourself up the ranks in your own dancing, okay, not necessarily up levels in dancing, you know, going from hobbyist to amateur to professional, not talking about that, your own skill set, you know, in the orchestra analogy, if you're playing a violin, you know, you go from sounding like a dying cat, like you're keeping the neighbors up as you're trying to like pluck some strings or whatever the fuck you do with that. And then you start to, you know, get the scales right. And it starts to sound moderately like a violin being played by a fourth grader. Yeah. And then, you know, you keep going, your skill set improves and baby, that thing starts singing soon. All of a sudden, Vivaldi's coming out of you, right? That takes time, but go for it. You know, why the hell not? What else are you going to do? You're going to shrink because of some stupid person's opinion? Look, even if they're a judge, show respect to them, yeah? But who cares? If someone doesn't like your dancing, who gives a flying fuck? Do you know how many judges have like said shit to me? And I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, you're an unhappy motherfucker. Like, I don't care if you don't like my dancing. Like, you have nothing in my life that I would ever want to emulate. Okay, you seem like a sad sack, and you seem like someone who's like just basically here to get some sort of validation. But I don't understand. So you don't like my dancing? Fine, I'll take that criticism. But outside of that, I don't, you know, what do I do about it? How do I get better? What do I do to make myself better? You know, give me those pointers. Do you understand? Not like, oh, if you came to, this has happened before, oh, if you came to me for lessons, I would have marked you higher, right? That's the sort of stuff where it's like, oh, get the hell out of here. I'm not dancing for you. And I'm certainly not going to give you my money. So that sort of stuff is where you got to be like, don't worry about it. What you can focus on is your ability to master your technique, then your ability to entertain a crowd. What do you think on this? Leave your comments and thoughts below. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Peace out, everyone. Have a great week. End.